What does world-class real estate look like to you?
Try to combine old-fashioned traditional estate agent values, but with all the modern tech that can help you move that forward.
Excellent communication is at the heart of what they do.
Great real estate looks like strong leadership.
Consistency.
Thank you to Iceberg Digital for sponsoring the podcast and making all this possible. Hello and welcome to another episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark Warren, joined as ever by Mr. EMF. However, we are face to face today over in Watford, and I'm not allowed to start with "How are you, mate?" So, how are you, mate?
I'm very good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. It's been a bit of a journey to get here, but it's always worthwhile these days where we get together and we feel that the conversation is more authentic, flows a little bit easier, and obviously allows us to produce some better video assets for the podcast as well. So well worth the investment, and looking forward to a day of meeting some great minds in agency.
Yeah, we've got some great guests, and I think, first up for us, Matt is going to really kick off a really good estate agency conversation. We've had all sorts of topics that we've released over the last couple of weeks, but this is going to be a proper estate agency chat, which I'm really, really looking forward to, because it's going to be exciting to talk about vendor care, market, strengths, weaknesses, as we enter 2026 as well, what's going on there. But between the three of us, of a similar sort of generation, similar amount of time in agency, it'll be quite exciting to kind of really get stuck into raw, proper agency chat. So yeah, looking forward to it. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to today. I was like learn. One of the reasons we do this podcast is to learn more about the industry that we're involved in, to take some learnings away. And I'm sure Matt's had some great episodes. He's been on a few times previously, but not for some time. And his are some of the most listened to episodes that we've ever had because of the value that he brings. So really looking forward to getting Matt Baldock from Charles David Casson on, and looking forward to having a great day of learning. So let's get him in, shall we?
Matt, welcome to the show. We were saying off camera, you are a veteran of the show. This is number 4.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is my third solo, and obviously me and my brother did one. So no, thanks for having me. Obviously the first time. I've got to do one with yourself, Ian.
Yeah, if it was Soccer AM, we'd give him a football.
Yeah.
After they've been on the show 3 times, they got
Most capped. Is that right?
Yeah,
Got a football.
Yeah, special football signed by the staff.
Does that mean you, Helen, and me, Tim, or vice versa?
You're definitely Helen.
I'll just take a can of Coke Zero as a leave or something else.
Yeah. Costco cookie and a can of Coke.
Yeah.
Much better than football, yeah. Matt, welcome back. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll start, as we always do, with our opening question. Let's see how it's changed over the years. What does world-class real estate look like to you as we come to the end of 2025?
I think it's a loaded question, right? And I think you have this urge to try and summarize it in about 10 seconds, which I'm clearly not doing now. But you could go on forever with it. But I think to try and get it down, I think consistent communication with a good dose of empathy, but knowing when you need to be stern, strict. You need to tell people what they need to hear rather than what they want
Honest.
to hear. Yeah. What people need to hear rather than what they want to hear, I think, has been a big theme for us through the back end of the year, and probably will be going into the new year. But people just want to know what's going on at all times. Consistency is amongst everything, with your marketing, with your communication. But I think if you consistently communicate with your sellers and with your buyers, you'll have a fairly solid base for a good business, and you can add everything on after that.
Do you think there's an art to empathetically listening to someone while also decisively supporting them with ultimately a difficult decision? There's a bit of an art in that not all agents are fantastic at, and it's a hard art actually.
It is. I think, and this isn't anything you can do about it as such. I think maybe it becomes easier, but with age and with life experience, as you kind of go through stuff in your own personal life and you understand a bit more. I think you've obviously got your end goal of what you're trying to get to, but if you rush to that too much, Sam would you say, the answers are in the questions, right? You have to actually ask a question and want to hear the answer, rather than just asking the question to then try and get you to your next stage. But I think if you come with the understanding that everybody's going through something and everyone's got their own agendas, and if you can help them get to their agenda, that hits your agenda. And that's the way to try and play it.
Yeah, empathy, the key word. We hear communication a lot in that, don't we, in that response. And I think it's a big part of agency, but empathy is definitely something which I think we're going to need to really deep down focus. It's not really something you train, is it? Like you say, as you get older, you get wiser, you get more understanding.
Life skill.
Yeah, and it is. It was always termed one of these kind of soft skills, wasn't it? And it probably wasn't very fashionable. Certainly in, the hard sales days, in the early days, we're here to sell, ABC always be closing and all that bullshit. Empathy, and it's different to sympathy, and it doesn't still mean you can't drive the conversation where you want it to go. But just like anything else, right? People want to be heard. They want to be listened to, right? It starts with, you've got kids, right? Mm-hmm. When they're having their tantrums, they're going off. Actually, you can go like, no, that's it. But if you just kind of let them know they're being listened to, you seeing their viewpoint. I'm not saying it always works for the screams up, but I think that's all we ever want. Everyone just wants to know that they've been heard. Yeah. And then it's easier. Even if you want to tell someone no, if they feel you've actually kind of been fair and listened to it, that knows a bit easier to take.
Yeah.
So we all sort of have talked a bit about empathy and life experience, and we're a very similar demographic as we sit around this table today. How are you trying to impress those skills on younger members of the team? Because I think we are going into that market where you have to be strict with clients in terms of you have to be really honest and tell them what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. But there is a process of listening to their goals and helping them achieve that first. So how are you trying to pass the skills that you've gained over 20-year career onto somebody who's maybe just starting out or just a few years in?
So again, it's understanding that it's not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to kind of learn. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm really immature, so I feel like the younger people. I feel like we have like a similar kind of mindset, maybe. But it's working out what they can relate to. So I'll reference like relationships. If they've got a boyfriend, they've got a girlfriend, or I'll go. When you're communicating with this on that. If they've got children, I reference the parenting thing. We've just taken on a young lady, and she was a multi-branch manager of sports shops. So I come from a really strong retail background. So I just ask her a lot of questions, about finding out how that was. She comes to a new job, and I want to find loads about her old job. But then when I work out how she dealt with things there and the skills she's got there, you can generally find a way to kind of phrase it and communicate it in the same way. Because if you go really top level, much of it is much the same. If somebody wants something, they want you to help them do it, and be that buy a tracksuit, buy a house. Yes, the game's different and the prize is different, I suppose, the amount of money you put online. But ultimately, somebody wants something, you want to help them get it, and you can generally find a way to kind of communicate that.
And do you think the consistency, we become more consistent as we get older, and then as a business owner, you help those younger members of the team become more consistent as well by putting processes in place and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it's just explaining to them why it's so important. And again, you can reference different stuff. So what I find is, the younger generation, they're much more interested in going to the gym than they're going out drinking. That's what we find there. Yeah. So that's a real easy one. Not that I'm obviously here to tell people, I'm not PT, but I understand if you go to the gym consistently, you're going to see the results. So actually, for the younger generation, it's actually quite an easy one to reference the consistency, because there seems to be a kind of shift from certainly when we were like in our 20s to what they're doing in their 20s.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how things have changed and are changing with the different generations. Because if you think of the group above us that were probably our mentors or bosses kind of when we started, that are now kind of on that move sort of out, the industry, we were talking about ABC there, always be closing. And last night we were at a dinner with some of the older school agents. We were talking about, taping people's drawers open and, all of the kind of old school stuff that you couldn't get away with HR now. But it's changed again, hasn't it? And we mentioned communication at the start. How are you finding that aspect of it? Talking raw estate agency, not necessarily just with the newer people, but negotiator level, valuers. Is the way they're communicating, just like method-wise, different? Is it still phone-based? Are they struggling with email, struggling with calls? Is it more WhatsApp-led? Is it more email campaign? Is there anything that you're seeing in that kind of fundamental level that's different now?
I think there's more options. So that's it. So again, it's kind of giving the client the option they want. So, I mean, I was having this with somebody on LinkedIn the other day. Some guy went on LinkedIn and declared that you're a lazy and idiot if you use WhatsApp to speak to clients. And I was just like, that just kind of baffles me, because some of my clients, they really want to be spoken to. Yeah. But there is this thing, and agents, we love this silver bullet, right? So automation, AI is coming in. I'll deal with that. but there is still a demographic of people that like phone calls.
Of course.
And depending on what supplier's selling what, they'll tell you, nobody wants to have phone calls anymore. But then Zoopla published something 2 days ago saying that phone calls are still the most popular. So again, I think it's with the team, really, it's kind of saying, look, it's not just about the 4 beds attached house, the 3 bed semi, it's the person that lives in it, which is the case, as you know, but how do they, so if it is somebody slightly older, they probably want the phone call. Interestingly, Zoopla published that first-time buyers want face-to-face meetings because obviously they don't know what's going on. They've never done it before, so they're like
Education process.
The education process. Whereas the people probably, 28 to 40 are happy with WhatsApps. But again, it's not to assume, right? Because there's some really tech-savvy older people. So it's just, if I'm in the living room, we'll say, look, this is how we communicate. What's your preferred method? Within reasons, because you don't want to have 100 different things for 100 different people. But, these are the kind of 3 options which works best for you. And then again, it's trying to communicate. So the team, I'm not in the office as much as I used to be. So yes, I can send out emails, but you don't necessarily know how they're landing. So it's video calls, voice notes. I use Loom a lot for like training and stuff like that because I still think seeing someone visually, hearing them speak is better than just kind of reading it on a message that way.
I love Loom. I love the report it sends you at the end of the month. You've saved X amount of in times. Really cool. I think as well, the different time of when you're dealing with a client. If we take vendor care or vendor management or whatever kind of label you want to put to it, I think it's probably quite a relevant subject for estate agents at the moment. And we've got the budget obviously happening at the point of this going out. It will have happened, but in that moment of these different triggers, vendor care is going to be quite a key thing. I think next year as well, especially. So that's a moment where there's different types of communication that's needed. If you really know that home is not selling, that process kind of can't really be done over email. It kind of needs to be either a Zoom call or a revisit or at least a phone call. I think that's quite important as well. But on the vendor care side of things, in raw estate agency as you're doing, have you seen that change much over the last kind of, since lockdown maybe? Is it different before and after, the process that you put in?
I think the process changes generically in the estate agency depending on the market, right? I think it's forgotten. No one likes to do it because as estate agents, generally you're good news givers. You like that bit. That's what all salespeople like, especially valuers, right? They like to, if you really pigeonhole the roles, the valuer kind of goes out, says all the good stuff, then chucks it to the negotiator. Says, right, that's
your bad cop.
Yeah. And so when the market's flying and things are selling, you don't need to do it as much. So I had a sales manager once, 10 years experience, and 10 years you think is a good amount of experience. They'd come from London, a really busy market, and were working with me, and I thought, and it turned out, I realised they didn't know how to do seller care on a house that wasn't having any viewings, because the market they'd worked for the last 10 years, every house had, so she said, I always speak to my sellers, but it's because there was always viewings going on.
Yeah.
And then when you get to a stage if you don't have a viewing for a week, it's kind of different. So I think it's just that we're very firm about our process. We do ours every single Monday afternoon. I say, the pledge my team have to make to me is that my seller will have spoke to them at least once a week. And we try and do that verbally as much as possible. We don't just send, we might send a report over and say, we're going to speak to you about this, or after the conversation, this is what we're talking about. Again, Rightmove stats, I prefer if I ever have to get to that stage, I'd rather do that on a Loom.
Yeah.
Or if you can, go and visit them face to face.
Well, they don't make any sense otherwise, do they?
They don't.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
They changed that report years ago from click-through rate to daily views, and when you see that as a layman just looking at it, it doesn't make any sense. But those Loom videos for that are really good to, if you can't speak to them, and then if you're speaking to them every week, there's only so many times you can have a conversation with them where you've got nothing to say in terms of, we've done this, we've done that, now it's price normally.
Exactly. And also it's very rare. So if you on the Val, for instance, you don't always meet both decision makers, right? So I'm a big fan of video follow up for that. But especially with the seller care, it's unlikely you're going to have a conference call with both of them. So if you're only speaking to Mr. or Mr., if you have a video going over, they can actually, rather than, they want us to reduce, this is everything they've kind of gone through. And I've done that. And I think the way that seller care probably changes in a tough market is you need to be recomping. So again, it used to be, that's the price. So it's not on, we've done this, we've done that, maybe it's the price. Now it's actually showing them, well, look, since I last came out to see you, this has come on the market, that's come on the market. We all say the seller care should be 2 things. It should be what's happening with your property and what's happening in the market. And that should kind of dictate the way the conversation goes.
I think that's a really, really good little nugget there for people listening if they are struggling with things to say, because that sales manager that you mentioned who's not made those phone calls has probably been a bit afraid to pick the phone up when they've not got anything to say. But actually, whilst you can have a conversation about what's going on in Rightmove with your property, there's always something to say in terms of the market, and it then brings it into context, right?
100%. And also, if you have an actual marketing process, so we have kind of a stage marketing process, runs for about 4 weeks. So realistically, what I say to my guys is the first 4 Mondays, you've always got something to tell them, because it's now we're doing stage 2, now we're doing stage 3. So actually, you've always got something to say, and then that builds up, the kind of the phone calls and going from there. Obviously, you have some sellers that say, look, I don't, just send me, an update once a week or something like that. I'm not really bothered. And so it just depends on who you're dealing with. We're mid-market, we're families that are moving, so they generally want to know kind of what's going on. I always just say, I never want a seller to be around a dinner table with their family, them say, what's going on with the house, and them go, I don't know. And in this market, probably when door knocking is becoming more prevalent again, it would appear you don't want another agent to be speaking to your seller more than you're speaking to them, because that's the way back in the day we used to, have I spoken to you more than your selling agent? Well, that tells you something. You kind of want to combat that.
I think you never want your seller to be ringing you. It's kind of one of the things that I say to my team.
Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than saying, "Oh, I was just about to phone you."
Yeah.
Because even if you were,
bullshit.
It all sounds like bullshit.
Do you think that needs diarising then? I mean, for me, back in the day when I sort of started agency, we used to have VM ruled out in a paper-based diary every Thursday between kind of 2 and 5. And the whole office would sit down for half an hour at the brown files. They came out the drawers and we divvied them out across the room. Your best negotiator was taking the ones that needed reductions. The nice person was taking the fluffy ones. And if you were the manager, you were trying to take as little as possible. But you kind of had that, you knew it was Thursday. If anyone put an appointment in between 2 and 5, you were getting shot. It just didn't happen. Do you think that's still something that needs to be reminded in busy offices, or do you think it happens organically more? I don't know, because I'm out of that traditional.
We have, so ours is Monday 4 till 6.
Okay.
No one can go out on an appointment, and on the valuation, and then again at the point of listing, but you tell the seller you're gonna, so you'll get your email up that so we have obviously the automatic emails going out confirming the viewing, especially if it's empty. They'll get them. We'll give you your feedback, etc., etc. But if for some reason you haven't had a viewing, haven't had a phone call, you'll hear from us on a Monday. By telling them it's Monday 4 till 6, we're not getting a phone call Monday morning. We're not getting a phone call on a Friday, because they know it's kind of going to come then. So
ours is diarised as well, and ours is Monday afternoon as well as it happens. So you mentioned before about 4-stage process to your marketing. Now, without giving away anything that you're not comfortable giving away, can you talk us through that? Because I think one of the things in this market is a lot of agents are doing everything right at the start, you stick it on Rightmove, and then by week 3 you've run out of things to say. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, and if it is staggered? And
yes, I mean, I don't think I don't think we're doing anything that is necessarily groundbreaking. It's one of those things, agents, isn't it? You do something, everyone kind of does it, and it's always like moving on. So we obviously start with the social media campaign. So we have, kind of own brand, however you want to put it, a lot of what they call community hubs. So Chelmsford's broken up into suburbs, and each one has what they call a community hub on Facebook. So we have, however, I think we've got about 50,000 people in altogether. Yeah. So we will market it on our Facebook, Instagram. I have TikTok, but it does a lot of database and into those hubs. So we generally get kind of some organic there. And then again, twofold, right? The reason I like social media is I can have conversations with people. Someone can go on there and go, fuck, you never get that for it. They can be angry, or they can tag their sister, and then weirdly you can chase their sister around the internet. It gives you a bit of price feedback before it goes on Rightmove and Zoopla. So we'll do that. Then we'll launch it on Rightmove, Zoopla. We premium list a week down the line, because again, I think a lot of agents kind of do their load in one go. They'll premium list at the start, but the premium listing will get you the spike in views. Then you've got things like moving the photographs around, so that will kind of get you, and then the price has to come at some point, but the price should be the last thing. But I tell kind of clients, I trade in attention. It's my job to keep their property in the buyer's attention for as long as possible. And you should always, once it's on Rightmove, it shouldn't just be there. You should be looking at what can you do with the advert, what can you do with the photos, it's premium listing, feature property, and all that kind of stuff.
Makes sense. It's not. I think if you've got something like that you can reel off as you just did, which is just like a natural habit, when you explain that to a vendor, because you're talking about it, you're sharing it, it's built within the culture and the community. That's where the power comes, even if it's not groundbreaking, and someone does something similar, or, we do our Beat the Portals version, you'll do your kind of exclusive part of it. But when you talk about it and it's guaranteed that that's what you're doing, it becomes a system, a process, a habit, and a marketing tool as well, because it's unique to how you guys do it. That's where the real power comes in, when you can kind of say, this is our process. And it goes back to what you said about world class. If you can be decisive in this is what we're doing, you become the authority and you become respected and trusted, I think, as well. So it's good.
I think so. And also it kind of, it shows you're doing what you say. So again, I'll just give you a real life example. So I've got a really good guy come to work for us, joined us a couple of months ago, 24 years, all with the same agency in Chelmsford. So the local knowledge I wanted, and the type of character I want. But he's been used to working in an independent, owned by quite a well-off guy who didn't really care. So it was just get on with what he wants. So it was the typical, take your own photos with your camera, chuck it on Rightmove. So I've explained the process to him, this is what we do. And it's all new, and I get that, right? You can be an agent, but I always say it's like joining a different football team. You can kick a ball, but the formations are different and stuff like that. As, Liverpool are showing at the minute. Yeah, exactly. We'll get a quick dig in there. So he's come, and he hasn't followed the full process, right? Things have been going on, because I like to social media over a weekend, and then Rightmove and Zoopla on a Monday, and then have a block viewings on the Saturday. And I've seen things going on at different... And again, I didn't want to jump on it too much, because he's a sales manager, and I want to, and also, if suddenly sales go through the roof, you can go, oh, fuck you, Matt. Yeah. But they haven't. So we had kind of a sit down, and I said, well, a couple of things here. Number one, my listings have got higher listing sales conversion than yours. So if there's not happening, why don't we just try it? Because I actually don't like processes. So if I make one, it's generally for a good reason. I'm not that kind of guy. But also I said, you're sitting in someone's living room, you're telling them you're going to do this. Yeah. We use Ackaboom, we send Ackaboom out, it tells them we're going to do that, and then we don't do it. Now, at first, they might not notice, but when you're then going for the price reduction, for argument's sake, do they fully trust you? Because in the back of their minds, you've told them you're going to do something and you haven't done it. And it can sound really little and really simple, but actually, if you just do exactly what you tell someone you're going to do, you build that trust. Then when you do say, look, it isn't where we want it to be, but we've done all this, we've done exactly this, we now need to have that price conversation, they're more likely to kind of trust and believe you. So, yeah, the processes are twofold. A, they work, and B, they build trust.
Yeah. I was reviewing a few episodes that we've done this year, and one when Sam came back on, he talked about micro promises to build trust, and that's exactly the same as what you're talking about here. If you say you're going to do something and then you do it, they might not necessarily think, oh, they've done that. But if it's the other way around, they'll probably think, oh, they said they were going to do that. And then, as you say, when you're then having to have difficult conversations and be really honest with people, that then comes in and there's a question mark there, a question mark over your integrity.
Exactly. And I noticed, because again, so with Ackaboom, it obviously tracks every time they're opening the emails. And what I will know is every now and again, I'll get an email notification saying so-and-so's opened their pre-val. And you think, why are they in the pre-val? They're on the market. But you can tell if people are on the market and that's happened, they're going back and they're kind of checking what was said at the time. So, yeah, you've got to kind of stick to it, really.
No, interesting. And to pivot slightly in times of the market, we've mentioned kind of tougher market, different markets. What do you think for kind of estate agents today are the threats, the challenges that we face? Kind of, I'm generalising a little bit there, and I appreciate each agency is very different. But in a general sort of market theme, what do you think as we sort of enter 26 are the biggest sort of threats and challenges at the moment for the UK?
I think the biggest challenge for agents generally is getting outside of our own heads and kind of overthinking problems. Yeah. I do think my accountant told me once that apparently he's big into his business. Apparently, if you do anything for 10 years, you're considered world class. So that's but you could have been an agent for 10 years and never worked what is really a difficult market.
Yeah.
So that's number one, right? That's a bit of a concern there. But I think also agents talk about these difficult markets. And now the thing is, people still want to move. People have to move, right? Regardless. So I would say you've got excuses and you've got reasons. And excuses are easy to find, reasons for hard, but there's reasons to move all the time, and go and find those reasons. So we can all worry about fees dropping, overvaluing, but ultimately you've got more than ever try and stay in your lane. And that actually used to be easier when you didn't have all this outside noise, because now with social media, it's so much easier to see what other people are doing and what they're doing there. The big danger I kind of see is so the danger to any employed negotiators, if you like. I was thinking about this on the drive up here. The world's changed since the pandemic, and it's almost like employers are having to work harder to please the employees. You know, like you have to offer the work from home. You have to, and it's almost employees kind of saying, "What will you do? What can you do for me?" Right? And what can you do for me? With AI coming in, and I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow because voice isn't there quite yet. I don't think, but it's coming. Right? There's no doubt about it. The days of needing someone to answer a phone to book a viewing are long gone. Right? So I actually think for the kind of standard negotiators, you've gotten to show your employer what you can do for them, you know. And again, I don't want it to go back the other way when it used to be you should be grateful to have a job and, you know, being with a stick. But there has to be more. The power's gone far too much to the employee, and it has to come back the other way. So I think there is a danger to the employed person that if they don't start showing they're about something and wanting to commit and wanting to work and show, you know, that there are going to be ways to replace them. The flip side is I don't think employers should be too quick to look for that shiny silver bullet as we all do and think, oh, this is great, I can sack everybody because AI is going to kind of take over. And that's what we all do, right? As agents, we love that shiny thing, kind of what's next. You know, everyone's being pushed. God knows what's going to happen. Well, this goes in out after the budget, right? So we should say, I can't believe she cut stamp duty. But it gets more and more expensive to employ. So people are looking to cut costs. Marketing and people, I think, are the last things you should look at. But they're generally the first things people do look at. But I think you'll get some people who go, right, okay, everyone, I'm going to have this AI thing, and it just won't quite be there because humans still value human connection. And if you go, and it doesn't matter if I'm wrong, because it's 10 years' time, so who cares? I actually think at some point the value of human connection is going to be more important than ever. So I foresee a system, especially maybe on like lettings, for argument's sake, where you're kind of going, look, yeah, the fee is now down at 5%, and you're dealing with AI and systems all day long. If you want a human to sit in your living room, not even a video call, you don't know that's real. You want a human to sit in your living room and talk to you. It's now 15%. Yeah. And I actually think people are going to start paying more money to actually have that human interaction, because you're not going to speak to a human when you book a ticket for the cinema, for a restaurant, anything like that. So I do think the value of that's going to go up more, but that's a bit longer down the line.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, AI is a topic that's like hot at the moment, isn't it? We have obviously had Mao on talking about from a portal point of view, which actually really helped with some of the storytelling around how AI reads properties. But from a staff point of view, I find it always quite interesting in the estate agency because we're quite obsessed with training in sales techniques, like how to be a better valuer, which is, when you put better, it's more about how to negotiate higher fees and the structure. You know, I did the old Adam Walker Lister training that we all kind of did back in the day. And, you know, you're trying to sort of build up to the desire checklist to get the right fee. But with staff, you know, if you're into martial arts, you climb up the belts. If you're into running, you try and increase your PBs. If you're into weightlifting or high rocks, you know, you try and improve your sets and et cetera, et cetera. In a estate agency, what you're talking about there, do you think we do enough as an industry of leaders to actually upskill the staff in that aspect of things? Do you think we do enough to try and make that person that actually isn't strong in AI or in automation or in any different areas, things modernise and the world evolves? Do you think we do enough to get external training in? I'm just thinking live and out loud here because I don't know whether it is enough.
Probably not. I think number one, I would say most agents don't do enough training regardless anyway, you know, if you generalize. And then they probably don't get like outside trainers, so people coming. We've brought like NLP coaches in a couple of times to work with our team. Right? You can get the agency trainers in, and there's some good ones out there, but it's nice to do something different. The AI thing, I don't think so. But again, the thing I would be training people on, and I've had this kind of chat with my team, and it's a real difficult one because you don't want to be kind of saying to them, look, you're all under threat of going. But what I am trying to explain to them is at some point, I'm not going to need someone to answer that phone call. You know, we're not ordering. We're trying to explain to everyone we don't work in a Chinese restaurant. We're not order takers. You know, we should be doing things differently anyway. But at some point, that literally is going to just be gone, that kind of job. So I think the upskill needs to be human connection, empathy, if you can kind of train it. And actually, you almost want to train people in relationships because that's the real, you know, you want people You know, even my, I get like, you know, especially with avocado, you know, the personal brand and people want them. But even with the employee team, I say, you know, people still will, they don't say Charles David Caston, they'll go Matt and Neil Baldock. Yeah. I want them to be saying Gavin, Jordan, Frederick. You know, I want them to be coming and asking you guys, because then it puts you in a better position. You can come to me and you can go, A, Matt, I want to go out on my own, or B, I want to pay rise because I'm bringing all this business. But C, I can't go, I can replace that because with something else. So, yeah, I think the training probably isn't there on the AI and stuff because agency owners don't understand it enough themselves. I think there's a massive overwhelm with it. I mean, I don't know you, but my LinkedIn DMs, the amount of people that can save me so much time and money with AI this, AI that, and you just suddenly, and even the, you know, the mail thing, you know, I saw mail and I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. And then, you know, Giles at Home Search brings his thing out, and you're like, and I've had this chat with Mail. You're like, I think agents are just getting bombarded a bit too much. We don't know where to go and kind of who to trust with it. So it's difficult to train your team if you don't really get
that magpie syndrome is difficult in a estate agency because if the competitor's gone and got something, you look at it and go, well, maybe I should have that. And when something new happens, there's so many new shiny things out there, and it's really hard because it's not a profitable industry. We're not a high profit business. You know, the margin is normally very low, especially in the sales aspect of things. Take lettings to one side. So you add a couple of these extra little shiny things to your business, and all of a sudden you're out of profit, but you feel like you've got to have it because the competition has potentially got it. It is a very difficult thing.
It is, and I think there's so many things you can have. You always get frozen with fear, and you don't actually choose one because you're not sure kind of where to go. And then you've obviously got Mark Burgess telling everyone it's going to be a bloodbath and agents. So kind of, then you think, oh God, is there any point? So you know, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Can I just pivot a little bit? You mentioned a couple of times that you could have worked in agency for 10 years and never worked in a difficult market. What's your opinion of what the short term looks like? Are we heading into what you would describe as a difficult market, do you think?
I think, yeah, because actually I sometimes think people think a difficult market is when like values are really dropping and stuff like that. So like when I worked the 07-08 recession, don't get me wrong, the start of it was very difficult. And I was employed at the time, and I actually banked the most money I think I banked as an employee during that time because you need movement, you need transactions. So if the market really drops, and you know, I'm not wishing for repossessions and stuff like that, you don't want that, but people have to move, people have to sell, there's movement, yeah? When sentiment's great and prices are flying, for some reason people like buying houses when they're more expensive than they've ever been, that's good. But when there's stagnation, that's when we really struggle. And so I think that's the difficult market we're kind of heading to. And again, it's difficult now because I can say all this and then something might happen with stamp duty and the market flies. So excuse me if that does happen. But if you, I feel like we're heading to that little bit of stagnation, where, and so I said it on LinkedIn, I've said it to my team, you just have to do more. And I'm not trying to be that boss that just, I need more. Yeah. What I'm saying is there are definitely transactions out there, but you have to have more conversations. You have to do more leaflets. You have to do more emails. You have to do more social media because you have to try and find those. Anybody can sit there and say, because we've got the budget, then we've got Christmas, then we've got Easter, then we've got another budget, then we've got the summer holidays. Then we're like, as I say, the excuses are easy to find. Yeah. But the reasons that people that want to move are still there. And maybe it's fishing, you know, are you speaking to your probate solicitors? Are you speaking to your family lawyers? Because deaths and divorces, they're always going to happen regardless of a budget. So, yeah.
And the lettings are always going to be there. Any predictions for how you think that market is going to change, the threats of all the changes that are coming in?
I think the lettings is always going to be there. I think you're going to lose, so some accidental landlords.
Yes, I agree.
Are going to go, and we have a healthy book of them, you know, because again, when the market's buoyant, people couldn't afford to sell, so didn't have the time to sell before they bought, so they were letting out inherited properties. I still think in this country we're obsessed with owning bricks and mortar. Safe as houses is kind of the phrase. I'm not sure what else you own that gives you the long-term growth. You know, stocks and shares fine for a short period, but can be volatile. So I do think people are still going to want to be in there. I was having a chat with someone about this yesterday. I think we've got at the minute, we've just got this case where there's the kind of the poor, sadly, going to stay poor, and the ultra wealthy, you know, because they've got nothing to tax, nothing to take. The ultra wealthy have got their ways around it, and then and it's kind of that person in the middle that's getting a bit kicked from both ways. The lettings thing, actually, from an agent's point of view, should be seen as an opportunity. Again, I know it's a bit of a cliche, you know, anytime there's a problem, we see the opportunities and stuff like that. But there's loads of opportunities. Right. There's loads of opportunities in it. And actually, even from a landlord's point of view, because the main thing people have got the issue with is getting rid of the ASTs and saying nobody likes moving, especially if they've got kids, right? Nobody wants to move house. So if you give somebody a good quality home, you look after it, you maintain it, they're not going to leave. So actually, I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem as people want. It's a bit like when the tenant fee ban came in. I think the tenant fee ban, they said a third of agencies' income was on that. Some got out of the industry. Some stayed and kind of changed what they do and moved forward. So
what it's done for estate agents, this is a podcast for estate agents, so the public probably aren't listening. But what it's done for estate agents is it made our lettings books more valuable. You look at what these lettings books were selling at even a year ago. It was kind of 1.5 times, and now they're 2.
More sticky now, aren't they?
Everyone's value of their lettings book has gone up by 25%.
And that was actually my one thought. I thought, well, if we're not having ASTs now, and do the lettings books become as valuable? But they seem to be. There's every day you read about someone else doing another kind of acquisition. I mean, we've always beat this drum about lettings. I believe if lettings should be a vital part of your business, because that's the bit. No, it's not just everyone thinks about the recurring income, but as you just pointed out, and that's the bit you can sell.
Yeah.
So that's the valuable bit for me. So I think most agents should do it, really.
It's interesting on the market chat, what kind of comes next, because you mentioned the word opportunity, and there's a phrase around where we are that one of the local agents kind of put together over the years, and it's rippled around, but every market makes a market. And it's interesting to see what the inevitable market is that we're going to see in 2026, and stagnated or kind of stable, whichever phrase we want to attach to it, seems to be what the banks believe it's going to be, because swap rates have dropped over the last 3 weeks leading into the budget. Interest rates are as low as they've been for 3 years at 95% and 90% loan to value, which if the banks are offering very cheap deals on 2-year fixed at 90% loan to value, then the banks are better when it comes to economic forecasting than we are.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying, we're bloody all right. We're doing quite a high loan, quite a low rate for a short period of time. We're fully confident that the market will be pretty stable for the next 2 to 5 years. And that's quite a nice read, because what it gives us is the ammunition to go back and articulate to our market that we're not overly confident, but we're feeling secure about what it is, and don't hesitate on making your move. Don't hesitate from a buyer point of view, because it is bloody hard to upsize as a tenant. I think that's the one thing that we've seen probably in the last 3 years, to actually upsize as a tenant to a tenant from a 2 or a 3 bed to a 4 bed is bloody hard work. Like if you're moving with a family and you're going to break your tenancy to find a family home, you are at risk of being homeless for a while. Yeah. It's not easy. So I think that ends up meaning those tenants now that have got 5-10% deposits, the affordability is much higher. You can get 6, you can get 5 times income. It was 4 18 months ago.
Yeah.
There'll be more people looking at that going, actually, I'm going to upsize from my 2-bed house that I've outgrown and buy a 3-bedroom house, because I can get the finance to do it. And it's not as risky.
No. And also, I mean, I don't necessarily mind there being less viewers as long as the buyers are there, right? So I like trading in the winter, because I think people that are willing to stick the coats on and come out in this bad weather, you're not going to have your 10 viewers around your open house. You might end up with 4 or 5, but one of them's going to buy it. An agent the other day told me that their viewing levels were 35% of what they were used to, but their sales are actually up. So they're showing less people. But that's better, right? So that's the thing. It's kind of what you're gauging and having to, and what you're tracking in your metrics, I suppose, as an agent. Another thing with the letting change is going to do with this, if you evict a tenant because you're going to sell the property and it doesn't sell and you can't then sell it for 12 months, the amount of times probably agents kind of have landlords that kind of go, well, let's test the market, chuck it on the market at that.
Stick a tenant in after a month.
And even if you don't, if you say, I never put anything on the market too much, you don't mind that one, because you've got the fallback of the let. But because you don't have that, at least the landlords, you're going to say to them, look, if you're going to try and sell this, you've got to price it properly, because it's got to go. So it will save a bit, the agents a bit of time wasted in that way as well.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a very valid point. If landlords are deciding to sell, they are absolutely selling, aren't they? There's no way back from that.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of landlord to landlord sales in that, where you kind of go, I'd need to be quite appealing to a landlord, but the secure aspect of it is if you are doing that, you do a landlord to landlord sale rather than the potential void period that you could have for quite a while.
Yeah, I think with the tenant in situ and you just pass it across.
Yeah. Going full SWOT analysis, as we seem to be doing here, what are the strengths of the industry at the moment? I think we're all quite quick to say, right, estate agency in the UK is shit or this or average. And then, we laud the Australians for some reason, even though my understanding is it's pretty much the same. 5% are great, 95% are average, or, 85% are average and 10% are shit. But what are the strengths for, UK estate agents at the moment? Because I feel sometimes we don't talk about enough of the positives.
Yeah,
we're such a valuable commodity to the economy and to the public. But what do you feel are those strengths where you are, in your location?
I think agents generally have kind of up there. So marketing has certainly become better. We for a while were like the only agent, again, so we're what we'd call mid-market. We were the only agent that had professional photos and a video as standard. Now, again, it's trying to find what can you do next, what can you do next. So everything's kind of happened that way. I'm finding collaboration is a lot more, and it's something that probably did kick off in the pandemic and it's gone around. But I am finding that agents seem to be wanting to learn, wanting to talk, wanting to help each other, a bit more. The only kind of caveat I put on that is you do find it's a lot of the same faces in the same rooms at things. So what I kind of always try and play with agencies is all well and good, 400 of us coming together in a room and kind of patting ourselves on the back how good we are. And then you go on LinkedIn or Facebook and you go, oh God, someone's overvalued this and they've done that. But if you've got time to post the negative, you've got time to post the positive. So rather than, oh, so-and-so's overvaluing and I've lost that listing, explain actually, because they might not be getting their training right in their own branch, so we can do the training for them. So actually say, the reason you don't overvalue is Mr. and Mrs. Smith are basing their divorce proceedings on those values. You're really going to cock up their lives if you tell them an inflated figure. And if you just kind of put it that way. Same with the conveyancing and agents, again, rather than conveyancers saying, oh, agents are chasing me, that explain what it's for. So, yeah, I don't hide the fact. I think it's a privilege to do this job. I think estate agents are important. I think we play massive parts in people's life journeys and where they're moving to, and we can make it so much easier. We can make one of the most stressful times of their life a lot easier or a lot worse, sadly. And to your point, Ian, we play a massive part, we're like that front line in the economy, so a lot of it is based on the housing market, plus, the amount when you're kind of employing people, the mortgage brokers, everything kind of comes around there. So agents are important. I think we should realise that more. But for me, the biggest thing I've seen is probably the standards in marketing are being raised, but the collaboration is the real key. I also think, and I don't know, but you guys are the same generation to me, it was always sales agents look down on the lettings agents, right? It was like, oh, don't do that. Going back to the point of the Australian thing, we've had Australians over, and they tell us about the sales and stuff, and they can't believe the fees we charge on lettings because they're piss poor on lettings over there. And actually, if you look at it, and I don't have the exact stats, but I would be willing to bet that as sales fees have come down, lettings fees have generally gone up. And actually, lettings agents are better at increasing the fees, explaining their value, and also acting more professionally, almost like solicitors. And I think sales agents can kind of learn from that bit. So, we've got laws coming that, there's obviously the review in the housing market at the minute. Something is going to change in the sales market. But again, it's kind of learned from what the lettings have been through it twice now, and they've come out and fees have done well. And I think sales need to kind of do that.
I think the regulation helps with that fee, and lettings is a bit stickier than the sales side of things. It's harder for a landlord versus a vendor to change, I think, isn't it? And in terms of the collaboration that you talked about, you do your directors, is it directors?
Estate agents dinner.
Estate agents dinner.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the same people being in the same rooms. I imagine because of the format of that, it's a few different faces. Talk us through a little bit that you've learned about either other agents or about the market by hosting those dinners.
You just actually learn that agents there are so wonderful human beings that are kind of estate agents, and people have this like persona online, right? And so like I've got a resting bitch face and I'm like grumpy, but I'm quite you would think Ian did nothing but ice baths and run up mountains all the time, and I come in here overweight thinking, Christ, I've got Ian's going to judge me immediately, but he's a nice guy, and you kind of get it. So actually, it's just you get to meet agents on a more human level, and I think that's the real nice bit. And you realize actually people just because the ones that get it understand we all do. If one of us, we can all do well, and it benefits individually. So the easiest way to raise your fee is to get everybody in your town to raise their fee, right? Yeah, and that kind of transpires that way. So yeah, you're right. I mean, when we first launched it, it was called the Directors' Dinner, and then it was meant to be a safe place for independents, largely owners, to kind of try. And then I was like, well, that's a bit of an old boy. Just the word director. Yeah. And then I thought, well, actually, again, going back to my point about educating, we can sit there and we can moan about the corporates, but corporates and employed estate agents don't know that this world that we sit in exists. So actually, let's get them to the dinner and just show them, for neither of us, just show them there is a different world out there. So we changed it to the estate agents dinner, and anyone, sales, lettings, property management, buying agents can come, and it's just all to kind of get together. And again, you talk shop a lot, so you do, we say about the shiny syndrome. Oh, I'm going to get this. Well, I've used that. I didn't find it that good, or this, and just that kind of inward collaboration. So rather than someone with an agenda telling you how great their product is, I think we've saved people kind of time and money by just having actual peer-to-peer reviews of kind of stuff.
I think that's a massive strength for those small, medium, independent agents. I think it's why we see similar 400 faces at the same conferences. I think it's why something like that's really important. We're in the same mastermind together. You have the same open share of conversation. I think it's a massive strength for the industry that this kind of generation of us are not looking at each other competitively. We're going into those places and we're actually genuinely interested how we can support each other, even if we're on each other's doorsteps or we're 150 miles away. Those personalities are coming together and actually looking at now how we can support each other. Whereas 12 years ago, if I walked into the pub and the blue lot were over there and red lot were over there, you're actually thinking, is there going to be a kickoff on a Friday night? Like it's that level of like whose board got smashed this week when you were driving past conveniently. Like it was that level of competitive. But I think that is left the industry or leaving the industry. And I think it is those smaller independents that are trying to drive that. And I think that collaboration is great. I think people listen to this podcast hopefully kind of resonate with that. The more of those industry training things that we can do that bring in outside of the industry skills is great. And your point on lettings and sales, I think if anything, it's gone the other way now. The respect that the lettings manager gets from the company owner and the staff, because they are consulting to a landlord, there's a lot that could be taken from that for the sales teams to go, actually, the consultancy is the value. If you go to the family barbecue, the first question everyone asks you is, how's the market? You're asked to consult in any of those environments. And that's the knowledge that we've got, that we could do a lot more to kind of share and trust our value with it as well, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. So we have what we call 6 core values in the business, and one of them is we consult, funnily enough. And we've actually said that, we are here to consult with people for both. So I want to consult with architects because I want to learn, but I want to consult with my clients because I want them to actually learn, and that's what they're kind of paying for. We had the other day we were due to, so we run the property. It was photos of bad videos back, due to launch on social media. Someone messaged me from the office. I think it was meant to come on the market. It was only like a 220. Oh, she wants to go on 225, which isn't on the right move price point, and sub 500 low only on the right move price point. And I was like, okay, why have you just taken that, that call, since when? And A, they've signed terms at a different price, not that we're going to necessarily start, but B, we're here to educate, we're here to explain to people. We're not just here to go, yeah, fair enough. So then, I make the phone call, we switch it to a guide, the price point comes where it wants to be. But yeah, that's the point really. I think we need to be educators more.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever see the first class brigade that get on the plane and you actually ask what these people, they all do consultation.
Yeah.
In America, that's where the big money is. But effectively, that's what we do. We do marketing and consultation.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as fun and sexy as we're in a sales industry, but we're not in a sales industry really. We are marketing and consultation.
No,
I think getting more of that across, that education to the public, marketing it well. We've definitely got way better at marketing our listings on socials and with videos and stuff like that. Do the same, I think, is the next step for the estate agents. Market yourselves equally as well. Have your website equally as performing, and get your USPs over there, even if they don't feel like USPs in the industry. I think this is the great thing that I've learned since Avocado is if you shout about something and say, we invented pink, and you do it enough, the public believe you invented pink. We weren't the first pink agent, believe it or not. But if anyone else is pink in our area, the public think they copied us. And they've been there 30 years and we've been there 5. But if you market it well enough, you become the authority on that subject. And I think that's a great thing that we could do next year with estate agents, is to market our quality of consultation that we can offer. That would be a really good place for agents to start with a business plan, and I think.
Yeah, I agree. Best known beats the best, right? Not saying that avocado on the best, but is that thing, you know. I get a lot of agents moaning at me on my competitors, you know, there's shit, there's da. I'm like, yeah, cool, look at their output, look at your output. You know, you've got to do more. And that's then we can all sit and moan about it. But the best known, there's no point being, you know, the worst known, best thing, you know, the best kept secret is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate your values. It's good to talk proper estate agency on an episode. And I think the estate agents listening will have taken a lot from that in different areas, different thoughts. And yeah, great to have you on for the 4th time, and nice for me and you to do a podcast together as well. For the first time.
Yeah, it was great. And very quickly, sorry, on to your point, I would love for next year for estate agents to learn more from other estate agents. We've just got this little thing at the minute. So I'm a big believer we should call this our profession.
Yep.
And it can be the suppliers industry, right? It can be their industry, but it's our profession. And there is a lot of agents looking up to the gods almost for people that haven't sold a house ever or haven't sold a house for a long time and must do. Whereas actually there are so many agents that if you just messaged them and said, what do you think about this? Most agents would actually answer you. So agent to agent learning, I think it should be a big thing for 26.
Yeah, because I think that's great advice, because how many times have you sat in your office and your Rightmove reps come in and back in the days when they used to come in and said, oh, this, and suddenly you think that that's the gospel truth, whereas actually, as you say, you're much better getting some advice from somebody who's actually doing the job, actually dealing with the clients, actually, you know, generating those sales.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a slight plug on something that we've got coming in 2026 off the back of the podcast, but we'll save that for another day. Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for your time.
A massive thank you once again to Matt Baldock for joining us. Ian, we said on the intro that there was going to be some key takeaways. As ever, just some really actionable insights that estate agents can put into their business. You know, maybe just slightly amend some of the processes, or just take some of those learnings and discuss them with the team members, that actually they could be making a difference. Having listened to this podcast, they could be making a difference as soon as tomorrow.
Yeah, and I like the topic that we went on about, you know, collaboration, and I don't think it's a bad thing to see the same group of people that are trying to better the industry, better themselves within the industry when you go to these different events. But I think the one thing that we can definitely do more from is kind of help each other collaborate more and try and drive it forward. You know, he mentioned about, you know, Mark Burgess and what he said at the EAX event, which Mark's obviously very much going one direction or another, but it is a fair way of saying there is this chasm, there is this divide. And actually, if you're on the right side of that chasm and divide in the estate agency world, we can get this industry where we want to get it. And I think over the last couple of years, rightly so, as Matt said, the marketing has improved for properties. I think people are more willing to learn, educate, understand what they need to do. I think owners are getting more understanding of employees' needs, but we've just got a 10x it is what we've got to do now. Really double down and 10x it.
I think that's the point. We've definitely got better at marketing properties. We've probably not got much better at marketing ourselves, which is a key action point for the profession, probably. And I also really liked just his very simple but very consistent approach to vendor care. And, you know, the conversation that he had where he said you should be talking about 2 things. You should be talking about their property, marketing, results, viewings, all of that, but also the market. It's a really small thing. Yeah. But my belief is estate agency is a lot of small things either done well or not done. So actually that small point is something that when you're making your vendor calls, you know, today, tomorrow, next week, whenever it is, if you're not talking about the market and what's changed since their property came on the market, you're probably missing a trick. And it's a real, you know, small golden nugget from an estate agent that's, you know, doing the job every day and at the very top of the game. So
yeah, a valuable point about the client opening the pre-valuation letter while they were on the market with them to recheck what they were promised on valuation. Now they're not sold a couple of weeks down the line. Being able to see that is a digital advancement, which is great, but it's also quite eye-opening that clients do listen on the valuation what you're promising, and if you don't follow through, they will check it. They'll pull you up on it. So, and it's not like if you overpromise, you're in trouble. But if you promise well what you can actually do and you just do it, you're going to be above the majority of the agents out there. I think it was quite an interesting point that you mentioned there. So some great takeaways, really good episode. And if anyone's got any questions afterwards or they want to know more about anything from the episode, then definitely check us out. And obviously Matt's a great guy to follow on LinkedIn as well. He always puts some good value out there. So definitely worth following on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to, get into putting more content out, Matt's definitely a really good guy to follow. So massive thank you to him once again for joining us today. As you know, we do this because we love our profession. We want to see it improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it out on social. I'm Mark Worrell. He's Ian Macbeth. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.